What is up? What's poppin'? You know it ain't no stopping. It is your boy, the International Sensei. Welcome to the Entity Dojo podcast, guys. What's going on? What's going on, man? So, man, look, martial arts, obviously, I love it. I love it. But there are some things that, good Lord, I cannot stand, man. I cannot stand. And especially today with like modern media and different like things like that. I'm happy that certain things have kind of been brought to light, but then it's also some things that still don't get mentioned as much. You know what I mean? Even though it is kind of like shown, but that doesn't get talked about as much. One thing that I'm not gonna lie that I've always hated about martial arts is like the inner school like beefs, like or like the school versus school beefs. So no matter what school I went to or what style I was doing, whether it was karate, taekwondo, or whatever, you always had like these grown ass men that were having this like long ass beef that 9 times out of 10 had nothing to do with martial arts. They never fought. No, something happened when they was in grade school. Someone took their orange juice, and the other dude freaking flattened one guy's tire or something. I don't know. It's always something weird, and then they're just beefing for all eternity. And literally, like Cobra Kai, which is like the martial arts, which is like a martial arts inspired series. It's a spinoff of the original Karate Kid, and it is like this endless beef between these two guys, and it's real as hell. Like when I was growing up in different martial arts schools, like that crap was mad real. Like when I tell you, there would be people like if you wore a certain school's gi, and then you would see like another school, like it would be like not like an actual like fist fight, but like on site type of stuff. Like y'all wouldn't speak this and that. I mean, now it's a lot less, which is very good. Like I mean, people can chop it up and things like that. But growing up in it, that was one thing that I was not a big fan of. Or even like if you did talk to the person, it was like a fake, like, hey man, what's going on, blah blah blah, and then y'all would just part ways. Um, my thing was always like, look, I'm trying to learn, you're trying to learn. Like we can compete. I beat you, you beat me, and at the end, it is what it is. We go our separate ways. But there shouldn't need to be all this beef, and I don't like this school, and don't talk to this, that. It was just crazy sometimes. Like certain schools were like that, and then certain schools weren't. I mean, I'd like it really just depended on the situation. But that was one thing that I wasn't a fan of, and it happened a lot more when I switched to Taekwondo. It was a lot of like school versus school beef, and them putting their best student against the other school's best student, and then all this like infighting and stuff. Or like it was just a mess. It was just a mess. The other thing I hate is obviously the McDojos of the world. Like there's tons of them. There's tons of them, and there's tons of people that just get like horribly misinformed about stuff. Oh my god, like it's just bad. I mean, even when I teach like little stuff to people about like kickboxing, or when I work with weapons and stuff like that, people learning all this crazy stuff like the death touch and the freaking like whatever it is. I mean, you guys know it. Like the McDojo Life is probably my favorite Instagram channel because it just exposes a lot of like fraudulent shit. But it's so much. It's crazy. Like the funniest one I ever saw was the breaking demonstration gone wrong, which was like on like a news channel, and it was this like old kung fu master, quote unquote. He really wasn't a kung fu master. He just might have studied a little bit of kung fu, and he had bricks. Now, mind you, bricks are very like for especially the way that they set them up, like those like large slabs of bricks. Those bricks are very easy to break. Like you can put you put a decent amount of pressure on them, they're gonna crumble. Now he looked like he had like even like lighter bricks than the average breaker has, because at least like with those big bricks, like it's a little sturdy. It's gonna take a little bit of pressure to break through. With this one, the dude on the news was just tapping it and it broke. So to set it up, the guy has a glass on top of bricks breaks the bricks. Now, mind you, it looks foo-foo. It looks fugazi already from the screen you're watching it on. Because he, like, literally lightly taps it and these bricks just crumble into dust. And then the reporter starts touching the bricks. And I think the reporter knew what was going on and he wanted to kind of embarrass the guy. And if he did, I love him for it because those guys need to be embarrassed and exposed. So he started tapping the bricks. And he tapped the bricks and then all the bricks fell down. And the guy got super upset and was like, hey, man, stop, blah, blah, don't touch this other set of bricks. Then he then he broke the other set of bricks with his head. It was just a mess, man. It's like, I don't understand why people think that that's okay, for one. I understand people need to make a living, this and that, but like, you're making a living selling lies. Like, you're making a living selling lies, and it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating to see sometimes. But obviously, like, with the way things are now, it's a lot less like that. But it's still a pain in the ass to see like how much of it goes on throughout the martial arts world and throughout the martial arts communities and stuff. And then also people who think that they've done a little bit of martial arts, so they think they know it all. Like, I've talked to people that are like boxing fans, and they think and even to this day, they think boxers are the superior fighters, or they'll think Wing Chun is a superior art. And now those are great arts. I'm not saying they're not great arts, but then they'll be down on stuff like jiu-jitsu and stuff like and grappling and Muay Thai and stuff. And like, oh my God, like, I've heard so much dumb stuff. Like, I got told one time that MMA should be round specific, so it should be like, it was said 1 round of boxing, or just 1 round of striking, and then 1 round of grappling, so you can kind of pick and choose. And I'm like, that is the dumbest shit I've heard in my entire life. I'm like, and when I think about that, I'm like, you know how bad MMA fights would probably be if that was the case? Like, you know, it's like people would literally just be probably clinching all day in the freaking boxing portion, and then when it came time for the grappling, the jiu-jitsu guys is gonna freaking maul you. You're not gonna be able to throw punches to get them off you. You're not gonna be able to throw a knee to stop the takedown from coming. It doesn't make no sense. Like, there's a reason why mixed martial arts is so popular and so effective, is because it mirrors what happens in actual life when you go through a fight. I mean, if you're fighting someone, sometimes, yeah, you're in close quarters, so that like the trapping and stuff and elbows work. Sometimes you're in space, so sometimes you need to use your reach. Sometimes the person's going to go for your legs. You need to know how to deal with them on the ground. You don't need to know it all, but you need to know a lot. You know what I'm saying? You don't need to be a jack of all trades, but you need to be a jack of a lot of trades. Excuse me. Like me, I have my karate base. I've learned some Muay Thai. I've studied some boxing. I'm studying jiu-jitsu now. I've studied some capoeira. Like, I understand in a lot of ways what works and what does not work in a lot of different instances. And there's certain stuff that I would never use that I might know how to do extremely well in when I'm training and when I compete and stuff like that. But if I'm fighting someone outside of competition, there's certain stuff I'm never going to throw. You know what I mean? And there's certain things that I'm glad that I've learned. Like, I'm glad that I've learned jiu-jitsu, and I still am trying to progress in that, but I'm extremely glad I learned that because it's so helpful. It's helpful, one, obviously in life, in a real life situation if you're fighting, but also just in when I'm doing choreography. It's very relaxing. It's helped with my flexibility in some ways, and I'm already a flexible guy. I have very flexible limbs, and it's only heightened that, and it's heightened my knowledge of the arts and things like that. So my biggest issue with people, my biggest gripe, is that people can be so close-minded and think that boxing is a superior style when you have to put all these caveats into why boxing's better. If I tell you karate is the best style of kickboxing, but then I make an organization in which a Muay Thai guy cannot succeed, i.e. World Combat League or things like that, where I don't allow, because I don't think they didn't really allow leg kicks, so not a ton of Muay Thai guys are in that league. Or if I go to a league and be like, you know what, you can't throw spinning hook kicks, can't throw tornado kicks. And now the Taekwondo guy that's been studying his whole life, been working at that's one of his bread and butter techniques. He gets his knockouts off of that. Now he probably doesn't want to come into my league and fight. I can't put all these like little ancillary things and then wax poetically about how superior something is when I've literally taken away every single other style's advantage. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a reason why you don't see a karate guy fighting against Canelo for the WBC championship, because Canelo is a boxer, this guy's a kickboxer. If he goes in there, he can't throw any of the kicks that he learned, but Canelo can punch him all day. You know what I mean? Like it's just frustrating when people love to be like, well, this style is so superior. And yes, you need boxing. You absolutely need it. So do not even think I'm saying you don't need boxing. You absolutely need boxing. You need boxing. If you are a person that's never fought before, you've never been hit before, you want to learn how to fight, learn boxing ASAP. Learn grappling ASAP. You need both of those. Now, you can learn a different style of hand-to-hand or a different style of grappling. You don't necessarily have to go for wrestling. You can go for jiu-jitsu. You can go for sambo. You can go for judo. I'm partial to jiu-jitsu and then sprinkling in some wrestling there. Now, there's people who are the opposite, that are partial to wrestling and sprinkling some jiu-jitsu. That is fine. There are people that are heavy judo players. That's fine. This is just for me. I am a karate guy that learned some boxing, learned some Muay Thai. It's a karate and Taekwondo guy that learned some Muay Thai, learned some boxing, and incorporated that into my game. And it's helped me become a better martial artist overall, because I understand that you have to be a mixed bag of stuff. You cannot just be a one-dimensional guy. Even for those people like in the UFC that are quote-unquote specialists, have great all-around skill. Like Wonder Boy is a specialist, but he has a really strong ground game, really good takedown defense, because he needs that in order to be able to keep standing up and striking. Israel Adesanya, same thing, but then you go to the flip side. Khabib Nurmagomedov started off as just a strict grappler and then got his hands right. Now he's even more lethal than he was before, because he got his hands right. He wasn't just doing what someone like Ben Askren does and just dive at the legs. And now it worked for quite a while. It worked great for quite a while, but eventually that stuff doesn't work as well. You run into a George Masvidal who, one, has great takedown defense, and two, is extremely explosive, exploded, got you with a flying knee, and probably would have got you with that in the fight at some point, the way Ben goes for his takedowns. You have a guy like, again, the same with the Ben Askren thing, you have him fighting someone like Damian Maia, where he was not, I don't even know if he was like a white belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I think he was just trying to like get his Jiu-Jitsu stuff together like later on. I don't know what rank he was, so don't quote me. And he gets strangled and put to sleep by Damian Maia. Like, you need to have it all. If you're going to consider yourself a martial artist, you need to at least sample a little bit of, not a little bit of everything, but a little bit of a lot. Like, you need to, like, if you're a boxer, you need to learn, like, you need to sample some kickboxing. You need to learn about some grappling. You need, like, you know what I mean? My favorite boxers to talk to are the guys that get it. Like, they're, like, I have a buddy, shouts out to my boy Gerald. He's a boxer by trade. He is a boxer, but he loves talking to me about kickboxing, asking me questions about kickboxing. Me and him talk for hours about MMA. He understands the difference. You know what I'm saying? He understands the difference. But there are so many people in all the circles, not just boxing. So don't think I'm trying to take a dump on boxing. But in the karate world, I know a lot of people that think, oh, you only need karate and it's it's a superior style and this and that. I know people in the Wing Chun world, you only need Wing Chun, this, that. I know people in the Kung Fu world only need Kung Fu, this, that. You need a little bit of everything. And obviously, when you get more experience, you're going to notice that certain things have parallels, style to style to style. But if you're so close minded and thinking that I only need to learn this one style and this is the end all be all, you're going to set yourself up, one, for a big fall, excuse me, and two, you're never going to